Have you ever stared into a mirror and felt like something on the other side was staring back at you? Not your reflection, not a trick of the light, but something alive, something waiting. For most of us, a mirror is just a simple object. Glass, silver, nothing more. But for centuries, mirrors have carried a darker reputation, portals to other worlds, traps for wandering souls, and objects that should never be trusted. And among all of these legends, one mirror stands out. Hidden inside the crumbling halls of a forgotten English estate, people whisper about an object so cursed, so terrifying, that even the bravest explorers refuse to stand before it. It's called the Cursed Mirror of Ashwood Manor. And once you hear its story, you may never look at your own reflection the same way again. Ashwood Manor wasn't always a place of whispers and fear. In fact, when it was first built in the late 1700s, it was meant to be a symbol of wealth and power. The Ashwood family was well known in the region, aristocrats with deep pockets and an even deeper taste for secrecy. But behind the polished halls and candlelit parties, there was something strange about the Ashwoods. Locals often spoke of their unusual interests. While most families attended church and respected tradition, the Ashwoods were different. They dabbled in seances, strange rituals, and whispered about contacting forces that no one else dared to mention. It was Lady Eleanor Ashwood, the last true mistress of the manor, who seemed most drawn to the occult. She was described as elegant, intelligent, but deeply fascinated by death and the afterlife. Neighbors claimed she would host private gatherings late into the night, with curtains drawn and the sound of chanting echoing through the estate. By the early 1800s, the manor's reputation had shifted. It was no longer just a grand home. It was a place people avoided. Farmers refused to work near its grounds. Travelers crossed themselves when passing by, and whispers spread that the Ashwoods were inviting something dark into their home. And then, one object arrived at Ashwood Manor that would seal its fate forever. The mirror. The cursed mirror arrived at Ashwood Manor in the early 1800s, brought home by Lady Eleanor herself. But this wasn't just an antique for decoration. It carried with it a history steeped in fear. According to old journals, the mirror came from Venice, purchased under mysterious circumstances. But others claim a far darker origin, that it had once been kept locked away in a monastery, hidden because the monks believed it was dangerous. No one knows how Lady Eleanor truly acquired it. But what's certain is this: the moment the mirror entered Ashwood Manor, strange things began to happen. At first, it was small. Servants complained of feeling watched when they passed through the grand hall where the mirror stood. Guests spoke of cold drafts in rooms that should have been warm, and Lady Eleanor herself was said to spend hours alone, staring into the glass, as if in conversation with something unseen. The stories grew darker with time. One guest at a dinner party claimed he saw his reflection move a second too late. Another swore the mirror showed a figure standing behind him, even though the room was empty. Servants began to refuse to clean the hall, and visitors who dared to look into the mirror often left pale and shaken. And Lady Eleanor? She seemed to change. Friends described her as distant, obsessed, her health fading quickly. Some say she even began hearing voices calling from within the glass. The cursed mirror had made Ashwood Manor its home, and soon it would claim its first victims. It didn't take long before the mirror began to claim lives. The first to vanish were the servants. One by one, they disappeared under strange circumstances. A young maid named Clara was the first. In her diary, her last entry, she wrote that she felt her reflection was blinking on its own, even when she stood completely still. Days later, Clara was gone. her bed unmade, her belongings untouched, as if she had simply walked into thin air. Then came the butler, a man loyal to the Ashwoods for decades. Witnesses claimed they saw him late one night, standing in front of the mirror, speaking softly, as though someone were answering him. The next morning, he too had vanished. Guests weren't spared either. During one gathering, a visitor fainted in horror after staring into the glass, screaming that she saw dozens of faces pressed against the mirror, begging to get out. She left the manor the very next day and was never heard from again. And at the center of it all was Lady Eleanor. The more the disappearances grew, the more obsessed she became. Neighbors whispered that she believed the mirror held secrets from the other side, knowledge of life beyond death. She would lock herself in the grand hall for hours, chanting, pleading, as if bargaining with the thing inside the glass. Then, one stormy night, her obsession reached its peak. Servants reported hearing her screams echo through the halls. By dawn, when the doors were finally forced open, Lady Eleanor was gone. No trace of her body was ever found. All that remained was the mirror, its glass cracked yet still whole, and with her disappearance, the legend of the cursed mirror was sealed in blood. After Lady Eleanor's disappearance, Ashwood Manor was never the same. The once grand estate that had hosted noble gatherings and lavish feasts was now a place no one dared to enter. Word of the cursed mirror spread quickly through the nearby villages. Locals whispered that the manor was alive with spirits, that late at night you could see flickers of light in the windows and hear faint cries carried on the wind. Some claimed the mirror had become a prison for the souls it had taken, their faces still pressed against the glass, forever trapped. Superstitions grew. Farmers refused to walk near the grounds. Travelers would take the long road around the estate, even if it meant hours of extra journey. Children dared each other to sneak up to the gates, only to run home in terror, swearing they had seen shadowy figures watching from the windows. The manor itself fell into decay, but the mirror remained untouched. No thief would take it, no villager would destroy it, and no one dared move it. It became the heart of the legend, the cursed object everyone knew about, but no one wanted to confront. By the early 1900s, Ashwood Manor was abandoned entirely. Yet, stories kept emerging. Brave or foolish, explorers who entered the ruins often left with chilling accounts. They spoke of footsteps echoing in empty corridors, of feeling watched in every room, and of the mirror itself, still standing in the same place, waiting. And the most unsettling part? Every person who dared to look into its cracked glass described the same thing. Their reflection didn't match. Sometimes it moved too slowly. Sometimes it smiled when they didn't. And sometimes it wasn't them at all. The cursed mirror of Ashwood Manor was no longer just a family secret. It had become a legend feared by everyone who heard its name. As the years passed, Ashwood Manor decayed into a ruin. The roof sagged, the gardens grew wild, and the halls that once echoed with music now sat in silence. But the mirror remained, cracked, cold, and waiting. By the mid-20th century, stories of the manor attracted a new kind of visitor, thrill-seekers, teenagers looking for a dare, ghost hunters chasing proof of the afterlife, and curious adventurers who didn't believe in curses. One of the most infamous cases came from the 1970s. A group of friends broke into the manor one stormy night, daring each other to stare into the mirror. Only 2 of them returned. The survivors never spoke of what happened inside. When police investigated, they found no trace of the missing, just the mirror, standing exactly where it had always been. In more recent years, Paranormal investigators have also tried their luck. Several claim that the mirror doesn't just show reflections. It shows other rooms, rooms that don't exist anywhere in the manor. Dark hallways, flickering lights, and figures moving in the shadows. A few researchers reported that their cameras malfunctioned the moment they pointed them at the glass. The recordings they did capture were worse. Blurry faces, distorted voices, and in one case, what appeared to be a hand pressing against the inside of the mirror. Even urban explorers who visit today leave shaken. Online forums are filled with chilling testimonies, people who say their reflection lingered a moment too long, or who felt something pulling at them while they stood before the glass. Some even claim to have left with scratches on their skin, though no one else was in the room. The cursed mirror of Ashwood Manor hasn't faded with time. If anything, it has grown stronger, its reputation passed on from one generation of daredevils to the next, and still it waits. For over 2 centuries, people have tried to explain what makes the mirror of Ashwood Manor so terrifying. And while no one knows for certain, several theories have emerged, each more chilling than the last. Some believe the mirror is a portal, a doorway between our world and something else, something darker. They say the faces people see pressed against the glass aren't tricks of the mind. They're souls trapped on the other side, desperately clawing for a way out. If that's true, then every person who's vanished inside the manor may still be there, forever imprisoned behind the reflection. Others think the mirror is a kind of parasite, an object that feeds on human energy. The more people who look into it, the stronger it grows. This could explain why Lady Eleanor became so obsessed, why servants weakened before vanishing, and why even modern explorers feel drained or marked after standing before it. Another theory ties the curse directly to the Ashwood family. Some claim Lady Eleanor bound the mirror through her rituals, using it as a vessel to reach the dead. But instead of opening a line to the afterlife, she opened the door to something far more sinister, and in the end, it claimed her too. And then there's the simplest, most terrifying explanation of all, that the mirror itself is alive, not haunted, not cursed, not connected to another world, but a conscious, waiting presence, a thing that can see us, study us, and decide who stays in our world and who doesn't. The truth? We may never know. But whatever the cursed mirror is, one thing is certain. Every person who has dared to look into it has been changed. The cursed mirror of Ashwood Manor has stood for more than 200 years, untouched by time, untouched by age. It has outlasted the family who brought it home, the servants who feared it, and the explorers who vanished before it. And still, it waits. Maybe it's a portal, maybe it's a prison, or maybe it's something far worse, something we don't even have the words for yet. But one thing is clear, every soul who has gazed too long into that glass has left a part of themselves behind. Some never came back at all. So now I'll leave you with this. If you found yourself standing in the crumbling halls of Ashwood Manor, face to face with that cracked waiting mirror, would you dare to look into it? The cursed mirror of Ashwood Manor has endured for centuries. It has outlasted the Ashwood family, survived the collapse of the manor itself, and resisted every attempt to destroy or remove it. Some believe that's because it cannot be destroyed, that the mirror itself protects its own existence. Think about that for a moment. An object, sitting silently in the ruins of a forgotten estate, yet holding a history of terror so heavy that even time itself seems unable to touch it. Over the years, skeptics have laughed off the stories as superstition. They say the disappearances were accidents, the visions nothing more than tricks of the mind. But here's the question that keeps people awake at night. If it's only a story, then why do so many who've seen the mirror refuse to ever speak about it again? Why do even the bravest investigators leave shaken, as if they brought something home with them? Maybe the mirror really is a portal. Maybe it's a prison of souls. Or maybe, just maybe, it's something much worse. Something ancient. Something hungry. Something that waits for the next person bold enough or foolish enough to stand in front of it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.